Scene 1. Picture a tidy suburban kitchen. Emma, a 30-something professional making $100,000 a year, sits at her laptop during tax season. She scrolls through a breakdown of where her federal tax dollars go and sips her coffee, raising her eyebrows as she reads. Scene 2. The infographic reveals that, for her income, she contributed $215 to SNAP, food stamps, and $515 to all welfare programs combined. In contrast, she paid up to $1,790 for corporate subsidies and tax breaks, and $1,859 just to cover interest on the national debt, more to corporations than to struggling families, and more still that doesn't go to any direct service at all. Scene 3. The screen shows two columns, economy built versus economy destroyed. In vibrant colors, it explains that every dollar in SNAP creates $1.50 to $1.79 in economic activity, funding local grocery stores, farmers, truck drivers, and food processors. Emma's $215 didn't just buy groceries for families, it created $323 to $385 in GDP and local jobs. Scene 4. The column for corporate welfare dulls the image. That $1,790 she paid for subsidies and tax breaks generated only $473 to $1,395 in GDP, with most of it swallowed up by stock buybacks and executive bonuses. The comparison is stark. SNAP returns 2 to 6 times more economic growth than corporate tax benefits. Scene 5. Emma clicks to fraud rates. Some headlines trumpet stories about welfare fraud with big, scary numbers. She searches further and finds the actual fraud rate for SNAP is less than 3%. Almost every dollar goes straight to families buying food, closely tracked and audited. Meanwhile, there is no reliable measure of fraud or effective job creation from corporate subsidies. Legal loopholes and offshore investments bleed untold billions. Scene 6. The news feed changes to breaking news. Congress passes the Big Beautiful Bill, slashing SNAP by $186 billion over the next 10 years, forcing mass benefit cuts and economic pain. At the same time, the bill increases corporate subsidies, boosting those handouts. Scene 7. The narrative shifts into the near future. Emma watches as local grocery stores in her town cut staff. The local farm layoffs lead to abandoned plots because fewer families can afford food. Unemployment trickles outward, and soon Emma notices her favorite bakery has closed. Meanwhile, corporate profits and the stock market headline new highs, but none of that filters down to Emma or her community. Scene 8. Emma receives emails from her elected officials boasting about fiscal responsibility. The infographic on her browser tells a different story, shifting dollars from programs that grow GDP to those that shrink it. She realizes her taxes haven't gone down, the benefits to her community have. Scene 9. A new pop-up compares options. If the government had shifted that $186 billion from corporate handouts to SNAP instead, the report says, GDP would have risen by $134 to $277 billion, 35,000 jobs would have been created, and towns like Emma's wouldn't have suffered. Scene 10. Emma calls her friend Carlos, who recently lost his grocery job. He's frustrated, she's frustrated. They wonder why these choices are being made. Emma's mother reminds them, the math does not care how you vote. Scene 11. The series of stark facts roll across Emma's screen. The real welfare queens are multinational corporations extracting billions while contributing less in taxes than Emma. Billionaires, with help from Congress, pay lower rates than her, and reap most of the benefits. Food assistance and unemployment insurance are villainized while they quietly keep the economy running. Scene 12. Emma saves the graphics. The closing message: if you want our economy to grow, give money to people who spend it, not to billionaires who hoard it. Scene 13. At her next neighborhood gathering, Emma pulls up the data on her phone. When someone grumbles about welfare queens, she shows them the infographics, and they're stunned. The truth isn't always pleasant, but without it, they can't make wise choices.